Hollywood died in 2008, and I want to explain why. So in 2008, there was the housing crash, the recession, a big downturn in the economy that took place mainly over 07 and 08. With that came the 2008 WGA writer's strike, which is the Writers Guild of America, and it's where all the screenwriters for TV and film work out of. They are connected to the guild. And if you have credits and these kinds of things, you are very likely connected to the guild if you're a writer in Hollywood. So it's shut down. And it's shut down not by the writers, which is sort of the way the narrative is painted, but it is shut down by ultimately the industry or the studios, essentially the money holders, because it is the guild strikes are a reaction to the economy. They are not writers fighting for better pay. It is an economy downturn, and then you have a writer's strike. So the same thing we saw in the recent writer's strike that happened, I believe it was 2023, where again you have a market downturn because of all the stock market sell-offs post-COVID and this kind of thing. And then you have a writer's strike. And so when I say that Hollywood died in 2008, that specific writer's strike was a huge turning point for culture at the time, because reality TV started getting big with that writer's strike. So we went from the old school way of big budget movies and writers writing for cable, and we started turning into reality TV. And with reality TV, there was also the video game era. And with the video game era, there was also the beginning of YouTube and social media, the internet, this kind of thing. And this was almost a result, really, of this splintering that took place in 2008 with the pullback of the financial markets that then affected the writers, and then affected how films were being created, and affected the type of product that Hollywood was making, and so on and so forth. And two big stars came out of this shift from traditional cable and theater content to reality content. Those two people were Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump. Both of them huge stars now. Still acting, still a part of the entertainment machine. And they came out of this writer's strike in many ways because they were the big pillars in reality TV and took that forward. And along with that strike came the internet. And since the internet, and the more that video game content, people saying the news online, people making stories, and all of this stuff that has existed in internet media, this has eaten into this old way of doing things, right? The old way of doing things being cable news networks and films made specifically and only by a very small group of people. And what we have really transitioned from after this big writer's strike, after that particular recession, is we transferred from big budget productions, long form with a lot of people, to short form, small budget, right? This is why the internet is full of short form media, skits, gaming content, live streaming, all of this stuff that is cheap to make. Everyone gravitated towards that because it has this freedom to it. And now we're in a strange time period because so much time has passed where after that writer's strike, if you go before 2008, it was actually possible for a new screenwriter to get some kind of big deal. In the sense of you are a screenwriter that writes a spec screenplay, which is a screenplay that is just your idea. Nobody made you write it, nobody assigned you, you just wrote it and you came forward and wanted to get it made. It was actually possible for a period of time for that to happen. That time period really changed in 2008. Not that it can't be done after that, and not that it hasn't continued to be done, But in 2008, they really stopped a lot of these large deals that were in the hundreds of thousands of dollar range, right? Where a new screenwriter could actually sell a screenplay for $250,000, $400,000, $500,000, like real numbers for a screenplay. And it worked at the time because then a lot of ambitious people actually would take a swing at screenwriting because there was a certain value to be gained from it. You actually could do it. But then in that writer strike, it was again a financial decision that was made, many financial decisions that were made all over the industry. And one of those financial decisions was aggressively limiting the payouts to unknown writers or writers outside of the WGA big lump sums for their screenplays. And so with this change, I would argue that a lot of intelligent people that would otherwise have tried to go in that direction have opted for different manners of self-expression or artistic expression. A lot of those being the route of the internet and social media and YouTube and these kinds of things, where now it has been decade or more that the internet has really dominated pop culture, and that all of the old stuff, right, what was made pre-2008, 90s content, early 2000s, 80s films, all this stuff, we kind of use that as, our Play-Doh, but much of real internet culture is on the internet, playing games or in podcasts or doing live streams or whatnot. And it's all a whole different crop of people, and all of the eyeballs that used to be over here with the old world media is now on the internet. And this is a huge change. Like, it is a massive, massive change. And it's interesting how long we have existed in this strange space where we still like to act like it's the old world. Like if you go to Los Angeles today or you speak to people who want to make films and this kind of thing, they continue to talk about appealing to producers. They continue to talk about getting certain film festivals so that you can get a deal and these kinds of things. And like a lot of that stuff can be helpful and it can be interesting, but ultimately, I think it is very important for writers to be considering that the future is the internet. And I think the future is going to be you being forced to do more of the work, in the sense of it used to be possible or more possible where you could have some real level of creative control, come in with a screenplay and then actually have other people help you with the financing and all of these other elements, and then you would not have to really be the captain, right? I think a lot of storytellers, writers especially, we want to sit in our homes and write a story. We don't really want to do all that is required of a filmmaker, let's say. But I also think that is the beauty of writing screenplays, is that some of the most interesting story projects ever have come from people who were both writers and directors of films. I think Apocalypse Now is a fascinating idea of this writer-director out in the wilderness of Cambodia making this just crazy film, right? It's just an absolute chaotic monstrosity of a production that he created, and I think that's very cool, right? Or you look at Fitzcarraldo with Werner Herzog, and he's taking this boat through the mountains in nature. And that sort of stuff is very interesting. And it's interesting too because it gives a writer the opportunity to do everything themselves, or to accept that and be like, okay, well then what would be the real steps if I were to not hold myself to being perfect all the time, but I were to just walk towards a vision, right? What would that actually look like? And it's interesting that, filmmakers get to ask those questions, which is great. You get to ask, how would I really make this, right? And that's all. It's always fun to speak to people that are actually making shorts and have experience on productions, because they have a certain tangibility to wanting to make the idea. But the old way is going away. That's the point. The Hollywood writer strikes, they're not strikes by the writers. They are sort of forced strikes, right? Like, the writers don't really have, if you really think about it and ponder it for more than 2 seconds, writers want to get paid to write, right? So they're unlikely to be constantly negotiating for these things. The reality is that most writers in Hollywood, in the guilds now, are not working because there's not that much going on, right? Again, it's like Hollywood has been sort of chugging down for almost 2 decades now, from 2008 to what will be like 2028, kind of this slowing down. So after '08, all the new writers stop coming. You don't really get a ton of new people. They go to the internet, they go to reality TV, they go other places, and then you have a couple major series that kind of carry things forward, because you still have those current working writers in there, right? You got Game of Thrones, you have the Marvel series, you remake Star Wars, so people kind of stick around for a few more years. And so now, what do we have? Now they make Dune and wonder what to do next. All they have now is, let's take billions and every star still young enough to matter and put them in a movie, and we'll see how it works. But things just don't work that way anymore. People talk about is it worth making a movie now? It's like, yes, because the narrative has been so controlled for so long. So few movies have actually gotten made, right? Like, we feel like every idea has been done, not even kind of the truth. So many ideas have never happened and will not, because it's difficult to make a movie and expensive. But story is for free. Story is priceless. It doesn't cost anything. Like, you can write. That's what's the beauty of writing is. It's like, first an idea has to be mental. It has to be clear in its mental state. And clarity in the mental state a lot of times is writing it out, right? You must understand the blueprint for what it is you're trying to do. And so that's how it works. So the internet is going to be where stories are told. At least I believe. This old way of Hollywood giving you $20 million to make your movie, it doesn't exist anymore. And it really hasn't existed that much since 2008. And even then, you had to do a lot of bending over backwards and working with all of those people to get things done. So, because where the money is where the evil ones are. If anyone is handing you large chunks of money, it's important to be careful, because large chunks of money always comes with strings attached. And so people make their goal to finally get a huge deal from the film industry. But the people that get deals, they don't take care of you for no reason. You're now kind of in the club. You must go along to get along, and these sorts of things. So this is why I like thinking about story in whatever medium it's going to be in. Like, it exists outside of a medium, because sometimes it exists only as the written thing, right? And it never gets produced or these sorts of things. And it can still be complete as a written thing, right? Whether or not it reaches a mass audience or these sorts of things. But it has to be complete there before it can go anywhere else. And trying to lie to yourself by saying, oh, well, once I get $12 million, I'll finish my script. It's like, you have to write that thing. Though this world of people handing you gazillions of dollars to make your movie, the doors on that are really shut right now. Although, you know, if you want to move to LA and you want to network for the next 2 to 3 years and sell a script for definitely less than 50 grand, you can do so. But right now, that whole place, the whole sort of trend of it is not trending upwards. This is trending upwards. The internet. People speaking peer-to-peer and figuring out how to solve problems on their own. That, I think, that is what the future is going to be. I hope this was helpful. This is a bit of a rambly one, but I just wanted to get some thoughts out, and I am very interested to hear your guys' opinions. I will be in the comment section below this video, replying, and I'm sure people will have some strong words for me about my opinions on Hollywood or whatever. But I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you in the next video.